how does it feel to be? I'm sure you're a humble guy, so I'm sure you're gonna be like, "Oh man," but how does it feel to be a real life hero, man?
Yeah, I'm just you hear this answer. I'm just doing my job. It feels good to be the hero in my kids' eyes. It feels good to wear the uniform. It's an amazing feeling.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Deep, this podcast. I'm your host, Starr, and this podcast, we dive deep into different topics, different categories, whatever we want to talk about. We always dive deep into all these topics, and sometimes they get controversial, but sometimes we have fun with it or whatever it is, right? We just have a good time. So this week, we have a very special guest, and let me bring him into the building. His name is Mr. Jake Leake, and hopefully I pronounced that correct, but he is a real life hero, ladies and gentlemen. He's a firefighter, but I'm gonna have him introduce himself because I don't want to take his shine right now. This is his moment. What's up, Jake? How you doing, big dog?
I'm doing wonderful, Supa. Thank you for having me. Super stoked to be here. Been a while since I've been on camera, so but bear with me. Give me a minute. I'll kind of knock the screws loose, knock off some rust, and I'll be in it.
Hey, don't worry about it, man. Hey, that's why we talk a little bit beforehand, just so you can get the jitters out, right?
Oh, perfect. No, no, it's gonna be needed for sure.
No, yeah, for sure. And yeah, guys. So last week I talked about bringing on a firefighter, and this is one of my good friends. We've known each other for like a couple of years already, and recently he recently just got into the fire department in the island of Kauai in Hawaii. It's a big step, man, because I remember when I was younger, I did want to be a firefighter, but after looking at all the tests and finding out what I had to do, I was like, maybe I'm not gonna be able to make it. So, yeah, man. Hey, thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate it. Just real quick, just tell us a little bit about yourself. Where you from? You got family and whatnot. Whatever people would like to, or whatever you would like to let the fans know. The millions of viewers watching.
So yeah, my name's Jake. I've been in the fire department 18 months come May 1st. So I've been in for a year and a half. It's taken me 4 years to obtain this career. It's a very rigorous process. A lot of fortitude goes into it. You really have to want it. You have to be willing to hear the word no. You gotta have the perseverance, and you gotta be resilient. That's kind of how I looked at it. But that's me in a nutshell about how I got in. But a little bit history is I was actually born in Utah. My family is all from Kauai. I made a move out here during high school. Graduated at Kauai High. Spent some years on Oahu, really not knowing what to do with my life. Always was an athlete. Wanted to use my physical ability for everything I could. I enjoyed working in like fast-paced restaurants, the bar, something that always had action. And you can run into a lot of problems. I like to serve people. Making sure people are enjoying it, having a good night, a good meal, whatever it may be. If problems arise, it's like I would love to fix this and make this person's day better. And that's what it was. And that service part of me was always wanting to give back. And I wasn't always the smartest person. I didn't do really well in school. College was not my thing. I blew that away. But I was always physically active. So I like to do CrossFit. I started to do competitions, and was never on the winning end, but it was just the aspect of being in a team, or using my physical efforts to try to accomplish something. And I always looked at firefighters as I'd pass by and be like, damn, I want to be one of them. They're, when they walk around in uniform, that like things are going to be okay. Things are good. They're superheroes, and they get to drive these massive engines, and whatever, if it's a yellow fire truck or it's a red one, it doesn't even matter. It's just like this enormous unit on the road that makes you feel safe, and they kind of run towards danger. And I've always admired that, and I think I've always had a hard time walking away from something that was wrong. And I will give one story of what the determining factor of why I got in the fire department. I was actually bartending, and a guest fell, and it's crazy story. I'm gonna make it short, but his foot actually snapped off his leg, and it was dangling off of his ankle. It was like his nerves were still connected, his toes were moving, and nobody was doing anything about it. And so I ripped off my own belt, put a tourniquet on him, just because of things I've watched in movies and the stories I've read, and all these things that I've just accumulated of knowledge without really knowing what I was doing. Applied a tourniquet, noted the time, and this is no training. I noted the time when I did it, how long he had it on. I made sure he was aware and he was conscious, seeing if he was going in and out. And the firemen came, they took him from me, they asked the questions, I answered them, and as they walked away, I was like, I want to do that. I want to be with them. I want to go where that guy's going. I want to see what happens. And they ended up saving his life. He was able to keep his foot on, and he's walking again, and never saw him again, but I did hear about this. And that was one amazing thing, or not amazing thing. That was one thing that made me realize I wanted to be a fireman, but it was a itch to get in. It was really tough. It's rigorous, but I finally made it, and I have my dream job. And it is what it is now. So it's great, and I encourage anybody who wants to try to be resilient and give it your best shot, and because it's best career, best job ever.
That's such a crazy story, because a lot of times, when movies make these scenes or whatever it may be with firefighters, policemen, and all that stuff, for the most part, most of it is true, but not everything is realistic. But just you taking the knowledge of you seeing other people doing it, whether it be on TV or in real life, bro, just that instinct, right? That protective instinct that you have, which I'm sure every firefighter, every first responder has. And just from that beginning, man, that first point of in the bar, right? You just automatically knew that you were made for this job.
Gotta do something.
But yeah, let's talk about a little bit about your family. You you have another half? Do you have kids and all that?
Yes, I am married. I have 3 kids. At the age of 30, I have a 16-year-old stepson who just got his license, so watch out for him. My 7-year-old daughter who's going on 15. She runs the house. And I've got a 5-year-old boy who's an absolute punk, but I love him to death. My wife, I met in high school. We were best friends all year. At the end of the year, we became a thing, and it just never changes. It got better and better, and started a family. We got married, and super stoked about them. They're my why for sure.
I'm sure a lot of people that are watching, or whoever's watching, they would want to know this too. What was your family's reaction when you found out that you became a firefighter?
Some tears were shed for sure. It was a relief. They watched me struggle and go through these ups and downs of a roller coaster of emotions, because every year that I tried, like, I got closer to the end. And it's that process of making sure you study, because you're going to take like a SAT style test, and if you pass that, then you move on to the physicals. And the physicals are swim, and it's running, all these things that I love doing, just using my physicality, and that rigorous work. And you get through that, and then you go to an interview, and the interview it's intimidating. You're in a room full of chiefs, you're in a room full of captains, and they are just glaring at you, and you got to sit poised. You need to sit still. You can't be talking with your hands. And I'm Portuguese, so I can ramble on and go on and on about, you say one word and I can continue for 10 minutes, and my hands are going to do the talking, and I hate it. And I'm still trying to stop doing that. But, I had to, sit still, and it was, that whole thing was stressful mentally, and emotionally. And you go through these trials, and they come at like month at a time, and then you get an email or a phone call 4 months later saying, sorry, positions are filled, try again next year. I mean, that's not word for word, but like that's what it is. And so you got to do it again, all over. Take the written, do the studying, and so it's just like your hopes are high. You get to the end, and there's no more cake. Everybody's had a slice, and there's none left for you. And to do that for 3 years straight was it was a drain mentally. It was like, do I want to continue to do this? So, I feel like you got to know somebody to do something about it, and I just stuck with it. I got in on my own merit, and it was like one of the most proudest moments for myself successfully that I can say I accomplished. Like, and it's exactly what I wanted to do. And my kids basically grew up watching me with my nose in a book and working out to make sure I could get in. My wife watched me cry multiple nights throughout the years about how tough it was mentally on me. And now that it was here, it was done. It's like, oh, best feeling I've ever had. Other than having a child and being married, those are great feelings too. But just for a personal accomplishment, that was great, because now I have a career that's going to provide for me and my family for years to come.
No, yeah, I totally can relate to you, because everything that you was explaining, I was just having flashbacks of my military training when I went to basic training. Exactly, word for word what you said. That's what we had to do. You had to learn how to talk properly and without your hands, like how I'm doing right now, and all that stuff. You had to suck in all the back talk that you want to back talk, or whatever it is, man. It's just
Mhm.
so I understand the training aspect and relearning a lot of things, and it's a totally different lifestyle. So I wanted to go into this segment, take a quick break of the firefighter action, and let's get into the questions roulette. I know a lot of people enjoy that. This is the reason why we do this, right, guys, is it's just a fun little questionnaire, kind of like Fast Money and Family Feud. I have 10 questions for Jake, and it's just creative questions, whatever, just to kind of get to know Jake a little bit more. So we're gonna get it going with that. Jake, are you ready for the 10 questions? I got a 1 minute to time you.
For all 10 questions, 1 minute total.
Yes.
All right.
So
Hit
the
me.
timer is gonna start when I ask the first question, and then we'll just fly right through it. So if you could only eat one food for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Eggs Benedict.
What's the weirdest dream you ever had?
I was floating in space. No
Hmm.
control.
If you could switch lives with anybody, who would it be?
Oh. uh, The Rock.
So good right there. What's the best prank you ever pulled?
Best prank I ever pulled. I probably did the whole, like, if you've watched Mighty Ducks, they do the feather and the shaving cream,
Oh, yep.
and you get them to itch their face. And I got my friend with like a cooling sensation one, and then he said he woke up in his dream like he was on fire. He was burning alive, and then he woke up and he was like shaving cream. It was great.
If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Fly.
What's your go-to dance move?
Oh, the Dougie.
What's the most embarrassing moment that ever happened to you?
This is a sensitive one. During training, I basically got a really bad chafe, and I had my wife try to put cream on it. And, I'm exposed, I'm vulnerable, and I thought the door was shut and locked. And my children came in the room, and they were just like, Dad! And I was just like, legs up, like, get out! Oh my God! And my wife's laughing at me, and I was like, so shame.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. We are up in a minute, but we're gonna ask you the final three questions. All good. If you could only listen to one music artist for the rest of your life, who would it be?
Adele.
Never would have thought that, but good choice. Would you rather have Would you rather have the ability to read minds or travel back in time?
Read minds.
And then last one, if you could travel back into any era, whatever time era, which one would you choose?
Dinosaurs, baby.
that, that's interesting. You go.
Jurassic Park era.
But you're gonna give up like all the technology, all the like everything new. Like you're like basically starting all over, like as a caveman.
I would love to see a dinosaur.
Like dinosaur in the time of like our eras where the infrastructure was all built and stuff, like kind of like Jurassic Park, or like back in the like caveman days.
I want to see it raw,
Raw.
back in the day, uncut.
Bruh. And to go back on what you said with the Dougie, I feel like that's a lot of because we're millennials, right? I feel like that's a lot of our go-to moves is the Dougie, because it's like in our time era, you know what I mean?
It's a simple two-step. You're just going left and right, and then you can add a little bit, and I don't know, it's just that was me.
The superpower one, I've always had trouble like saying what I would really want to do growing up, but when I got older, I realized that I'm super afraid of heights, and as much as I would love to fly, I think I'd rather have super speed instead.
Well, then here's the thing about flight. If you could fly, why would you be afraid of heights? Because you have all the power to stop yourself from falling. Because that's the fear, right? Is falling.
Yeah, yeah. Just
You can
imagine
turn that stalling dive into
just imagine Superman having a fear of heights. I can't even imagine.
It would be a terrible comic book.
That would be a terrible comic book. It's like not even kryptonite. Yeah, like they find out his basically his new kryptonite would be heights.
Yeah, no, that wouldn't run well.
So so before we go back to the firefighter stuff, I do want to touch up on your little embarrassing moment for a little bit, because that was pretty
Oh my
bad
God.
censor, bro. First of all, how did that happen? Like, how did you get that into that
So,
situation?
during our what we call fireground ops is when it's basically like a couple weeks of hell. You're wearing your turnouts, your bunker gear, you're just fully clothed, you're fully suited up, like you're ready to fight a fire, and you're sweating. You're drinking a gallon of water a day. You're eating like 2 or 3 lunches because you're just constantly getting your ass kicked. You're pulling hose. You're having to reload hose, and like it's not easy. It's not. You're sweating profusely, and you're getting chafed up in between your legs, maybe in your armpits. Like your jacket could chafe you if you're not wearing the right shirt underneath. And it just like it got to the point where like you're just sweating so much, and my thighs would start rubbing, and it rubbed enough to where like it ripped through my underwear, and it like then it started like you dry up, and then you get you start sweating again. You're spraying water, and you're constantly in these positions where you're on your knee and you're sliding and you're crawling, and then you're back to running again and pulling hose. You're jumping up and down, and it's just a week and a half, 2 weeks of that. Towards the end, like you're walking like you're full of chafe, and you just look terrible. And it's not like you like, oh, Cap, I gotta sit out. Like, no, you just fucking push through and survive this, and then you can become a fireman. You don't have to put it on too much, but
Yeah.
this is like your initiation. And the chafe was so bad, I had a hard time showering, and I can't see where it's at. I just know it's all over.
Yeah.
And I was just like, baby girl, I need you to help me out right now. So I'm gonna lay on the bed, and I need you to put this cream on me. And she's like, okay, she'll do anything, like, okay. She's like, okay, I'll help you. And then, she's kind of already giggling, and I'm like, covering my eyes, like, this is like so bad. And I'm like, the door's locked, right, babe? She's like, yeah, it's locked. And then I hear my child like running through my house, and then boom, the door opens, and I'm like fully exposed. I'm buck naked, and I'm like, I'm hurting physically and emotionally, and then mentally right there. It just destroyed me.
Bruh.
And like, Daddy, what are you doing? I'm like, get out! Oh man, it was bad.
Bro, why is it that like it's always the kids always barge into the room at the worst time? That's always the case.
It's their superpower. That's what it is.
They know something's happening. Like, what's going on? Let me go check it out.
Yeah. And like it's for something stupid, like you probably wanted to like jump off the couch and like do like maybe half a turn and like, Dad, come watch this. Like comes down to and sees me and it's just like, what? Yeah, scarred, scarred
Oh man, that's crazy. All right,
for
well,
me and him.
yeah, I was about to say, and it was probably one of the funniest and best moments for wifey.
Yeah, she's like, oh, so now you know how it feels. I'm like, that's not cool. Like, what do you mean? Like, no one's ever walked in a room on you. That's fucked up.
What's up, all you podcast lovers? I just want to take a break and tell you guys a little bit about Rootz Global Entertainment. These guys are all about the streaming, gaming, and creating some awesome content that'll keep you entertained for hours on end. With roots in Hawaii, they've got a unique perspective on the world of entertainment that's sure to keep you engaged. And if you're looking for more ways to keep up with their latest releases, their latest posts, or whatever it may be, check out their website at rootsglobalentertainment.com. Whether you're into gaming, streaming, or just love content, great content, Rootz Global Entertainment has got you covered. And let's get back to the podcast. Just so you guys know, I know last episode we brought in a brand new member to be a part of the podcast. My co-host, Miss Kaleo Hero. She couldn't make it today, but the show still has to go because we have Mr. Jake here, a real life hero. So we're gonna get back into asking questions about firefighting, and because I'm sure a lot of the listeners would love to know more. So Jake, I know you said earlier, the story that you said earlier and the moment where you decided like that's what I want to do. Is there any other moment of like maybe when you were a kid or whatever that you wanted to become a firefighter, or did you want to become something else?
As a kid growing up, I mean, always being involved in sports, I wanted to go the sports medicine route. I wanted to be like a physical therapist, or like some type of trainer in regards to, you know, fitness. And, I kind of established that route because I got injured a lot because I'm not that great on my feet anymore. But I got injured, rolled my ankles, sprains, you know, separated shoulder, all of your common routine injuries that you would receive in football. And I've always like admired the therapists and how they worked and how the body heals, and like that was something that caught my attention. Like I would love to help out other athletes when they're down, because like there's not a worse feeling as an athlete when you're playing your heart out and something as scary or as simple as a rolled ankle can set you out for weeks, and it's almost like demoralizing. And it's just like it doesn't matter what time of the year, it's like it's always bad timing. Like, oh well, this is the worst time to get it. I mean, nothing's more worse in playoff season.
Right.
But but nurturing yourself back to health was something I was interested in. So I did go to college for what I could remember. um, was trying to like learn about human anatomy, and which was a terrible subject at the time. I don't think I had the focus for it, and I fell off of my college track. It was just never worked out. And firefighting wasn't a thing yet, but it was more, I wanted to do that physical therapist route. But grades couldn't cut it. My mental status wasn't ready for it. I was still trying to maybe find myself during that time in college. Just that 1 year. I didn't spend too long in college. It was just about 2 semesters and out. Decided to work, and that's where I was like kind of lost, and but then found myself, where I was at with what I wanted to do physically. I wanted to make use of it. I wasn't a smart guy, but I loved problems. I would say like I had really good common sense, knew how to handle problems, but I couldn't build you a building. But I would find out how to do it, but I may not know the numbers, things like that. So that was kind of where I was at with that. And my wife was definitely one of the big pushers to, hey, you should be a fireman when you get back from Kauai. And I was like, so she kind of planted that seed. And then, years later I started trying.
I think from the what you learned in college kind of plays into your job now, your career now as a firefighter. You're learning about the human anatomy and all that
100%.
stuff. Yeah, so it kind of worked out anyway, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. Because the 2 years I spent trying to learn human anatomy, I learned nothing. And then you get into the fire department and you take your NREMT course, you get a year and a half worth of material condensed down into 2 months so you can learn and pass practicals and things like that. And it was way more interesting to learn this time around because I actually was in the career. I need to know what the body's doing when this happens. And it was way more fun, actually. I actually enjoyed myself. I enjoyed learning. I enjoyed the reading because it was viable,
Right.
and it was pertinent information that I needed to know.
Right.
So it
No,
was cool.
that's definitely viable for sure. That brings me to my next question. Like, and this question can be, very. I mean, it's obviously opinionated, and then there's obviously like a view on it, a view standpoint from the outside looking in, and then there's a viewpoint of, the higher ups in the fire department. What their answer is. So the question is, what makes a good firefighter?
That's a great question. What makes a good firefighter? I think what makes a good firefighter, or even, great ones, is those willing to continuously learn, those humble enough to have the humility to know that they don't know the answer, but they'll find out and they will get an answer. Most of the time, hopefully, be successful in that answer, but also find that humility of like admitting to, I don't know, I don't have that. I think that's what makes, and it's kind of like, it's a simple way of saying it, but there are people in every profession, whether you're a firefighter or not, that you're gonna get these know-it-alls,
Right.
and they get told or found out that they're wrong. They, yeah, whatever. Like I know best. Like, and that's to me makes a bad firefighter. That person may have amazing skills. They may be really good at some things, and they may not be good at others. But when they don't have that humility about not being good at some stuff, that's kind of like, that kind of can grind some people's gears.
Right. And
But the willingness to learn and have humility.
no, I'm glad that you brought that aspect of being a firefighter, and that does play into a lot of different career fields, just in life in general, right? Having that better mindset, going into whatever career it is. Because, like, on the outside looking in, like if I asked a non-firefighter, they would probably be like, "Oh, probably the most physical one, the fastest, the one that has great instincts and stuff like that." Well, you took it to a whole nother level as far as like emotionally and mentally. You know what I mean? So that
Hmm.
was pretty interesting that was the first thing that you said instead of like, oh, having great skills, have great physical ability to jump off buildings or whatever you want to say. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, of course. It definitely, to me, it comes down to humility, problem solving, that critical thinking aspect. Because, I mean, you could have like the full package, 6'2", 215 pound, like middle linebacker that's a fireman who can drag out two bodies out of a fire, but he could be like not that great in the head, you know. They're like, if you act like he's all tough and all that, but what happens when it's like the fragile, the little things, so it's, you can't what they say is like, you can't just fireman your way through everything. You have to take steps back, and you need to think and process, and you know slow things down and be the problem solver, but find that humility in your losses.
Right.
um yeah, it's great to be that guy, because you are the hero in that moment, but you're only good at those calls.
Yeah.
You want that all around package.
Yeah, no, for sure. Because, you know, yeah, it may look good in the media's eyes or the people that's like, down the block watching and they see like, oh, this strong guy just took out like two people out of the building with his own hands and all that stuff. But let's say, let's say that firefighter did do that. He got these two people and he just firefighted his way out, and maybe like I don't know, a piece of wood or whatever like falls because he's firing his way out, and then messes up the other firefighter on the other side of the building. You know what I mean? And then they don't make it out. So
Hmm?
it's like like you said, he's got to have that critical thinking of like, what's the smartest way to get out, not the fastest way.
And yeah, that's the truth. It's there's a book that I read. It's not even like, no, you don't know the titles, but it's firefighter mindset, and there's it's every chapter is like some kind of C word, whether it's courage or um there's a bunch of these C words, and they're all adjectives of like the courage, compliant. It goes over these words that define having those traits that you should have.
Calm.
Um,
I don't know.
calmness. Like they're
Yeah.
they definitely like it's just something that I would like. It's not I've never read the book all the way through. It's just like I find bits and pieces, or I'll find a word that I'm gonna go with today, and I'll go through it. And it's not like it's an super easy read, but it's something that you dive into every now and then, and it's a good reset button. It's kind of like a firefighter's Bible, because there's so many things that you want to highlight and remember, but there's just too many.
Right.
I've tried to journal what I've written about it, and it's helped me. Cooking. There, yeah, that's one.
That is definitely one, man. Firefighters can cook for sure, man. Firefighters can cook for sure.
I just learned how to cook after I got in. I'm still learning, but definitely something you got to know.
Yeah, you can't go in there just learning how to boil ramen. That's you know what I'm saying.
And I've heard of some people doing that.
Yeah. But that actually brings me to my next question. I mean, it doesn't have to pertain about cooking and food and whatnot, but just in general, what are some of the challenges that you've heard? What some of the challenges that you've experienced yourself in firefighting?
Challenges. There's a lot of challenges. During recruit class, the challenges were a lot of mental and physical straining. You're getting your ass kicked at PT, trying to keep yourself in shape. You're trying to stay healthy, trying to stay hydrated. You're trying to eat good meals, as well as get good rest. And on top of that, studying for your written test that you have to take like every few days. You're literally diving, you blow through a book that's 1,000 pages big, and that's no exaggeration. You blow through a book in 1 month, maybe a month and a half. 1,000 pages. You're doing like 3 or 4 chapters a day, and then you're taking a test on those 4 chapters the next 2 days, as well as learning 3 more chapters and taking that test the following day. But then on the test day, you're learning a new set of chapters, and it's just a ballpark of mental status of trying to make sure you can comprehend everything you're doing. So there's that. And then once you get on and you graduate and it's station life, the challenges of like, can you coexist with these other alpha males? And that's a huge part. Can you get along well with these other alpha males? Because everybody that gets in the fire department, they just kicked their way through recruit class. They survived, and now they're big, bad, strong, fast, whatever you want. They're good swimmers. They're the surfers. They know the district. You don't, and they're forcing you to cook. And then if your cooking sucks, then it's like you're getting ridiculed for it. And it's like there's a form of hazing that goes with it. So it's like that's part of like getting along. And if you don't get along with some people, you just work with like this wall. You may not talk to them, you may, but like you have to go with this bad blood that you feel on calls. And sure enough, you know what? On the call, we have a job to do. We help the person. We solve the problem. We give each other fist bumps when we're done, and it's a quiet ride home. That's like, that's a really shitty thing.
Yeah. That's a big
challenge.
challenge.
A lot
Right?
of departments, it is
trying to be a part of feel like you're a part of the team, because it kind of like drains you kind of mentally after a while.
Mm-hmm. No, and it definitely that's definitely challenging. Other than the station life, some of the things you might see out on calls, and it can be pretty traumatic. If it's bothering you, you should talk about it with your other guys, especially the ones that were there. It's good to talk about what you saw, how you feel. We're a bunch of in this society men who don't cry. Things hit differently, and talking about it can really help you out, and also kind of brings that bond a little bit better for you and your crew, because you become a family. Like, that's where you live. I live 3 days a week with these other guys, and then I live my other 4 days at home with my real family. And so you have to create that family, and you definitely learn how not to step on each other's toes, but you also know how to enjoy each other, come time.
Right. That brings me to my next question, because I feel like this one is very interesting and very helpful to all firefighters, whether or not they just get in or they've been in 5 years or even 10 years. But question is, what can you learn from these veteran firefighters, or what have you learned already? Like, if your seniority, gave you a little advice or whatever, because you're just coming in and stuff like that. Do you think new firefighters coming in should try and seek that out right off the bat, or just let it happen?
Yeah, like asking questions,
Yeah.
like what, like, hey, I know a way that I learned in school. Is there a better way? And absolutely, there's tons of things that you can learn from these older guys. They talk about, there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat, but you know every single way gets it done, but whose is better, what's done. And it's cool though. I mean, everything is by the book. And I think that's a great thing with the fire academy, is that they give you all the right tools, and you're learning so much in this academy, and your brain is processing all these things, and you're actually learning like life things, like how to tie ropes, how to stabilize a vehicle, how to cut open cars, and all these amazing things that you're learning. And you feel like you're getting flooded with so much information, but really it's like they're only giving you enough to get by. Because once you get out there and you start learning from other crews or other people in other stations, there's so much more out there in those disciplines. I thought my brain hurt learning ropes, and how to raise and lower, and all the tools that we use. And then you get out there and you get to a station, like there's more tools, there's more pulleys, there's different types of systems that you have to learn. So you just the learning never stops. And that's what I think is so cool about this career, is that you can never learn too much about a job that can kill you. Asking like these older guys, like, I think testimony and story time from these guys is like one of the best things that you can do. And especially your captains, like you can ask them their careers and where they started, and so what's some of the calls that they have, and they can bring those stories to life for you and make you realize, like, this is what we do, and this is why we do it, and this is how. It comes down to how we treat people on calls, or how do we get into the second floor? What's the first thing we should be doing? And there's those there's those things that you learn in class, but then again, there's like, but if this happens, this is what you should do. You're like, oh wow, I've never thought of it like that. And I can go on a million examples
Right.
of things I've learned, but I've also, like, there's so much to learn. I don't even know where to begin, because it's every day is a new learning thing. Yeah, you just got to ask your guys. And if your guy doesn't want to share and says you ask too much questions, then don't talk to him.
Definitely not a
So
good leader right there. Because a leader,
it's tough.
a leader would recognize that, especially in a job like this, experience goes a long way. Because your guys' job is so unpredictable that every situation is not going to be the same as the previous one. You know what I'm saying?
No calls are the same. No two calls are ever the same.
Yeah. It may be similar, but it doesn't go exactly the same how it went. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That actually brings me to the next question. Like, so while you're on the job so far, what is just real quick before we get into a couple more questions, and then we can start wrapping this up. But what is just one of the craziest or crazy experience that you've had so far on a call? If you're allowed to say it. You know what I mean?
I can talk about some. to each his own. Like everybody has like what defines crazy. Because I've had a few crazy calls. One of them I wasn't even on a call, so I'll go over the bite. One day I was, me and another fellow firefighter, we were sent out to go shop. So we're in uniform, we're wearing our button-up, dress-up shirt, we've got our shinies on, or we have our badge, and we're walking through the station, and just being aloha that we are, we say hi to everybody, and we're stuck looking at one aisle. We're looking for dressing. We can't find this one dressing. We were standing in this aisle for probably like 10 minutes, like going back and forth, laughing, like we can't find this stupid dressing. And then a guy came out of nowhere and like he tugged on my shirt. It was about 5'4", 115 pound, 120 pound little man. And he pulled on my shirt and he's like, hey, you need to take me to the hospital. I'm dying. And I was like, oh, what's wrong? So I'm clocked in. I'm ready to work. I'm like, what's going on? So I'm like kind of looking him up and down, assessing him, and he's kind of like glossy in the eyes, and he's like, I don't know, something's wrong with me. I'm dying. And he lunges at me. He grabs me by my shirt, and I push him off. And I was like, okay, you can't touch me. I want to help you. Just talk to me. Like, let me know what's going on. And he basically put up his hands, and he like was enticing me to fight him. So I put my hands up. I was like, whoa, I don't know what's going on. I want to help you. No one's here trying to hurt you. Let me help. And then my other firefighter, he kind of got his attention. He's like, hey, don't touch us. He's like, I don't know exactly the words that were said, but they were nice words. They weren't mean, but he was just like, hey, you can't touch us. Like, don't do that. And the guy turned to him, put up his hands, started shuffling towards him. And in my brain, I'm like, there's no way we're about to fight this guy in the middle of a grocery store. And sure enough, he went after my friend, took one swing, and I don't even know how I was like really following him, because I felt like I was standing still for a while, but I was right behind him. He took his first swing, and I got up behind him and pulled him into a full Nelson, picked him up, dropped him straight on his face on the ground. And this guy was freakishly strong. And I'm 205 pounds. My buddy is 205 pounds, and we're on top of this guy, and he is working us. And I'm like, oh my God, this is insane. And mind you, I'm not even 4 months in on the job yet. I have just like barely got online at a station, and I'm a probational guy. I'm still like a recruit, but I'm pinning this guy down, like totally like, what is going on? What is happening? And he's fighting me off, and he's like, oh, I'm sorry. It wasn't me. It was something else. Like, I don't know what's going on. I'm like, okay, this guy is like got dual personalities, or he's on drugs. He kind of smells like paraphernalia. Like, and then he is like breaking my grip, and I've got him pinned, arms up behind him, like a police officer would. And I'm like, hey, get on the radio, like send help, like get dispatch and send us police, send us EMS, get our crew over here from the station. And he gets on the radio and calls in some stuff. But the one thing he did leave out was that we were attacked. So whatever dispatch heard was like, we have an altered conscious patient. He's not responding appropriately. And his chief complaint is just, he's mental. And so that kind of tones the need to get there as fast as we can. So, but we're struggling with this guy for almost like 10 minutes on the ground. It felt like 10 minutes, could have been shorter. And he somehow spun around and got on his back. And now I'm on his chest, like trying to hold him down and pin an arm. There's other bystanders, like one bystander is holding his other arm. And I see him like biting my arm. And he's like locked onto my shirt, but on my bicep. And I don't even really feel it. So I pull my arm away real quick. I slam my elbow back into his chest. I press it up into his neck, and I was like, you need to calm down. Like I wanted to bust this guy's face so bad, but I was just like, I'm in uniform. It's not going to look good. Somebody's probably filming me. Just stay calm. So I was just like, hey bro, you need to calm down. No one's here to hurt you. I understand that, like, something's not right, but just cool it. By then, cops came. The rest of my station showed up. EMS showed up, and they're like, whoa, what's going on? Like, is this guy crazy? And I'm like, I don't know. He's on drugs. I'm like, I think so. Like, I'm sweating, and my hat and my glasses, everything is like all over the floor. Just like I made a complete mess of myself, and finally gather him. They arrest him, take him outside. And the EMS, first responders are, hey, like, do you need medical attention? I'm like, no, I don't. I mean, I kind of slammed him pretty hard at the ground. He attacked us. Long story short, take care of it. And the cap's like, or my captain says, all right, well, Jake, you know what, you and the other guy, you go back to the station, go decon yourself, go get cleaned up. And I was like, okay, right on, I'm out. So I'm thinking, in the car ride back, me and my guy are like literally repeating the story back and forth to each other, like laughing and like, what just happened? He's like, I got attacked. And I was like, he tried to bite me. And he's like, oh, dude, I was ready to like give him like a couple. And he's like, did you see me? I'm like, oh yeah, did you see me pick him up and slam him? It was just like, we were like kids. Like, it was so funny. And I get back to the station, short drive. I'm starting to calm down and I'm like, oh fuck, my arm's kind of sore. I kind of unbutton and I pull up my sleeve, and sure enough, like, I've got blood coming down my arm to my elbow, and I was just like, oh, he bit me! He bit me! And like, we're all like, oh my God, like zombies are real. And it's just like, we're just total kids. And I had to write a report. I had to go to the doctors, and oh my God, it was a big mess. September 27th, Tuesday, 11:55 a.m. 2 days after my 30th birthday.
That's crazy.
I get bit, and that was it. Like, now I'm known as the guy who got bit. So I've got this nice little scar that he didn't touch teeth to skin. He just bit hard enough through my clothing, and I think as I pulled my arm back, it like his
ripped
teeth,
the skin or something.
Like,
yeah,
he got that little bit, and had to go doctors. That was all good.
Bro, that's crazy.
That's my crazy story.
Crazy story. And I'm sure you've gotten like a bunch of other stories, because I think I remember you was telling me one time where you actually had to use the jaws of life, and I think that's pretty cool.
That was the same month.
That was the same month?
2 weeks before that. Legitimately 2 weeks. That was on September 11th.
Oh, really? Wow.
It was on September 11th, about 8:15 p.m.
Wow.
Right around there.
Wow, that's crazy.
We just finished dinner, and that we got that call. That one got the heart going. That one will really, there's not too many fires that you get here on Kauai. I mean, especially structures. So like you're doing a lot of other stuff, like the medical calls, and
right.
You're gonna go to any vehicle crash, and so like you get the tone. It comes in, and you hear station whatever. Please respond to this street. There's a truck that's driven off the cliff, and like that's like, whoa, like that's a legitimate call. Like, we're gonna like put on all of our gear and we're gonna really do something. Something that's our job that no one else can. A lot of the medical calls, EMTs, that they beat us there, they take care of it. And then like it's like, oh, we're excited and we're putting on our gear, and then then dispatch will come into the radio and like, oh, update, station whatever, there's a child in the car. And you're like, whoa, now you're like, your heart rate goes up high, and you're like, well, we need to make sure we do this the right way.
Right.
And everybody's sensors is heightened, everybody's adrenaline's like through the roof, and everybody wants to do something. Everybody wants to get in there, and you gotta like calm yourself down, because it's amazing. Like during recruit class, I think like one of the first weeks we tell people, like, you're gonna hear calls come in on the radio, your heart rate's gonna shoot up to like 150 right away. And you kind of get used to like just hearing the tone. And then when someone says like, oh, there's a child in the car, it's like your heart rate goes up high, and you need to learn how to take a breath, calm down, and think, because the human mind doesn't think well when its heart rate's going too high. And that's what happened. So I was like, even on scene, I was like, oh, take a second, take a breath, like visually see what you need to do, communicate to your crew, and this is what's going to happen.
That's especially when a human life is on the line. I was getting like, my heart was pumping just hearing the story, because I'm like, I can't even imagine, man.
Yeah. So and then you just have no idea. Like, you don't know what this truck looks like. You don't know how far off the cliff is it. Is it upside down? Is it mangled? Is it crushed? Luckily enough, nothing was like severely damaged. We couldn't open the door with our hands. We couldn't. So I was like, oh yes, we gotta use tools. We gotta pull out a little small engine and crank up the Hamatra and spread that door until it pops. And like, that's like the coolest training I've ever had as a like firefighter, other than shooting water on fire. which just gets your blood going. It's like super cool. Using tools to help save somebody, definitely a cool feeling.
That's what's up. And I know you're still in the beginning of your firefighter career, and I'm sure you'll probably be in it for like another 20 plus years or whatever. So I'm gonna hear so much more stories along the line, and hopefully maybe one day we can bring you back on the podcast, and we can tell a lot of
Oh,
those stories, man.
100%. 100%.
Maybe we'll bring Wifey on and say some embarrassing stories, huh?
Should probably bring up that same one.
Probably. Going into the final two questions before we start wrapping up the podcast. Before we ask the questions, I do want to appreciate you, Jake, for coming through with the podcast. I know we're not too big yet, but we are getting there. Eventually, we're gonna have the millions of viewers in this podcast, and I just I just wanted to make another platform for people to tell their story. You know what I mean? Whether it be we've had a DJ, we've had a business owner, we've had a school counselor and a football coach on. Now we got a firefighter on here. So just giving another platform to tell their story through their lives and all that stuff. So again, yeah, I appreciate you coming on the podcast, bro.
I appreciate you having me, Supa. Thank you for this time.
Yes, sir. So yeah, final couple questions. They kind of go together, but how does it feel to be? I'm sure you're a humble guy, so I'm sure you're gonna be like, oh man. But how does it feel to be a real life hero, man?
Yeah, I'm just I you hear this answer. It like I'm just doing my job. I get to. It feels good to be the hero in my kids' eyes. That's that's another part of that why. It feels good to wear the uniform. Um, put on put on everything, put on the boots, walk out the door with fire across your chest. Like it does feel good. People wave to you. More likely or not, they're not going to attack you most times. You get that sense of you're making people feel safe, and you feel it too. That's a really cool feeling. People. You can't miss a fire truck. It drives by, everybody's looking at it. So to like even hop out of it, like it's a dream job. Like it's been my dream job. I still can't believe I'm in it. And even when I'm not in it and I see the a fire engine go by, like I get all giddy, like, oh my god, that, like, look, it's the firemen, and they're in uniform walking by, and to me, yeah, it's like superheroes. Like, look, these are our real life superheroes. They're here to like make sure everybody's safe and okay. And then I get to be like, oh yeah, I get to go to work tomorrow. I get to be that, and it's an amazing feeling. And for my kids to like wherever they go and they see a fire engine, like, do you know my dad? Like, my dad works in the fire department, and those are special, feelings that I get to experience now.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
it's the best feeling.
It's I haven't had this experience, but just I could only imagine that just seeing your kids being proud of you kind of takes your proudness of being their father or their mother to another level, right?
Yes, it does. Because they saw it too. They saw me studying. Because 6 months of school or academy, you get to be home, at night, but I'm I'm not present with them. I'm in my room. I'm in my books. I'm studying. I'm having to read and memorize. Put down study guides for me and my crewmates, like on a computer. There's all of that, like doing practice tests. Like you're doing that from the moment you get home. Like you get home, take a shower, hit the books, get out, go eat dinner for like 30 minutes with the family, and then you're right back in the books, and then in bed by 10, hopefully, maybe 11, and then up again at 5 o'clock in the morning, doing it all over. So it's like they saw me sacrifice 6 months of not being around. Like, and I hear it, like them run to the door, knock, and like, Dad, can I come in here? I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't. Like, don't worry, this will all be over, and we'll be able to play and wrestle all again, and just give me some time and I'll get there. It's nice to see that.
That's good, man. That's good, man. And already, I'm sure you already know this. Your family's proud of you, but as a friend, bro, I'm proud of you, bro. I'm proud of because I seen from the jump, you know, from the times that we've talked, the little times that we've talked, and be like, oh man, I just had my study session or had this workout or whatever it was, and I'm proud of where you're at, man. So,
Thank you.
um,
Thank you, Supa.
final
Yeah, you were
question.
there. You watched it all.
Yep. Yep, I saw it all, man. I saw it all. Well, I didn't see it all, but you know what I mean.
I think I
um,
know what you got.
yeah. But final question, man. And who is your real life hero?
Who is my real life hero?
Mm-hmm.
My mom. My mom is my real life hero. That woman is the most resilient woman I know, and I think I take a lot of her selfless care that she takes towards other people, and her undying love, her passionate love is tough. And I think I take a lot of what she's taught me and how she's raised me into how I love on my family, love on my friends, love on my kids. And you know, she taught me a lot, but she taught me how to love and care and develop that passion just to help serve people. So I have to tip my hat to my mom for being my real life superhero. Was always there, you know, even if it's making like a ham sandwich, it just tastes better than your own, you know?
Yep.
So I don't know what the ratio of mayo that she puts on per piece of bread, but it's like magical.
Right.
And it's not like, and she can make it in like 3 seconds, you know? Like I make a sandwich, it takes me like a minute, and it's like I'm like Picasso. I'm like, it's just everywhere. And then like if I walk through the door, I'm like, hey mom, can I get a sandwich? It's there with chips and a soda. Like it's all packaged and ready.
Right. Right.
And if you need to go, she can make it in a Ziploc bag before you can blink. You know, like that's my superhero.
I'm glad you said that your mom was a superhero and said all she, you know, everything that she does for you and your family and stuff, because a lot of people don't realize that, like, mothers just around the world, man, they do a lot. Hats off to all the mothers out there. Shout out to all the moms. But yeah, so I just wanted to take this time, guys, to thank you guys for coming through to the podcast. We are going to be ending the show. So if you guys like this podcast, if you guys enjoyed this episode, please like this video, like the podcast. Make sure you hit the notification button so that you don't miss any more shows every Wednesday. And if you're on Spotify, again, follow the podcast and rate the show. I appreciate you guys coming through. Yeah, if you guys don't want bad luck, then subscribe to the channel. Yes, sir. We are going to go with the final words. And what I do with every guest, Jake, I have my guests tell us and the viewers that what is one saying that you've heard in your life that you try to live by?
I got a good one, and you can apply it to anything. And as a human being, I may miss the mark because you know nobody's perfect, but it's make today better than it was yesterday. And you know whether that's being a husband, being a father, being a fireman, being a student, being a teacher, a coach, make today better than it was yesterday. You know that's kind of that in a nutshell. You know, when I go to work, I don't just go to work and sit on my ass and watch TV. I'd like to try to at least learn something and go home with something new, something viable. You can never learn too much about a job that can kill you. And there's so many disciplines in the fire realm that you'll never, no matter how many years you work in this career, you'll never master all of them. So find a couple that you're good at and become an expert and be the teacher for the next class. You know, that kind of thing. But you know, make today better than it was yesterday.
No, and that's probably one of the simplest but most powerful sayings, because it's like a lot of times people hold on to the past, or they think about, you know, what happened beforehand, and it affects their present and their future. They're not able to take that step forward. But if you try to make it better than what it was, you're able to take that step forward. So I feel like that's a pretty powerful message, man.
Thank you.
No worries, but I appreciate it. But that's it, guys. That is the end of the show. Jake, final words. You want to say bye to all your fans out there?
Yeah, to all my fans, all my followers, all my subscribers, I appreciate the time. And if you spend around to listen to me, talk myself into a hole, I appreciate it. It's really I'm just super blessed. I'm very thankful for all you people who may be thinking about getting in the field of being a first responder. Do it. It's a stressful job, but it's a very, very fulfilling and feel good job as well. You can learn a lot and you can never stop learning. So if you're feeling stagnant, try it. Be resilient and be persistent. That's all it takes to get in. And then the rest is up to you. Make the most of it.
Yes, sir. There you go. The great words from the great Jake, firefighter in Kauai. Great Jake.
The great Jake.
But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of the show. Again, I'll see you guys next time, next week, Wednesday. And we are out, baby.